Not too long ago was Hild's first appearance in the story of Vinland Saga. It was chapter 114 and was released in July 25th of 2025. I was completely impacted by the character of Hild due to her construction throughout the series. Her openness to forgive Thorfinn and her parallels with Thorfinn's story are some of the best writings I have witnessed. She touched me as a character, which simply made me do the video. We first get to meet her in chapter 114 and come to understand her tragic story. She explains in chapter 115 how Thorfinn murdered her father, and we later on find out about all of her family was murdered due to Askeladd. She starts with the same conviction as Thorfinn from earlier in the story. She wants revenge, and she's not going to give it up. Us, as the audience, know how Thorfinn has changed, and are hopeful he will get a chance to explain himself and find forgiveness. This panel right here shows perfectly Thorfinn's expression and feelings towards his past. He regrets it so much that we can physically see the burden it takes on him. They have a confrontation, and we get to see a peek into Hild's character for the first time, where she hesitates and does not shoot the arrow at Thorfinn as Carly was in his back. We also get to see her strategies and strength as a warrior, lying about the poison to get the upper hand on Thorfinn. Whilst they are dueling, we get to see her past in chapter 118. We get to see the gruesome and unfortunate past she beholds. Sympathizing with her and seeing Thorfinn's mistakes, Thorfinn drops the line, and I quote, "I am the hunter, and you are the hunted." This phrase does irreparable damage to Hild's mindset, as we get to see later on. Thorfinn lets her go, and she drops off a cliff where she is awakened by a hunter. She asks of him to teach her how to hunt. I love her connection with the old bear. It easily becomes a father and daughter relationship. She uses her architect skills to build a crossbow that matches her strength and style. What I find touching of their relationships is the old bear's words. Animals are better. They eat and are eaten. They hold no anger or hatred. Give up your anger, Hild. You do not need it in the mountain. This goes to show how he thinks alike with Thor and Thorfinn. Not as forgiving, but he teaches her a lesson on how to let go of the past and focus on a brighter future that she can uphold. Unfortunately, the very next page is of him being murdered by a bear, and this bear is the personification of Thorfinn. Hild's hatred comes to a climax, and we don't get to see what she does to the bear. Hild gets the upper hand in Thorfinn in chapter 121 and gets him to his knees and repeats this very same words Thorfinn said to her. "I am the hunter and you are the hunted." Einar unfortunately shows up and takes Hild's attention. In chapter 122, we see the weight of Thorfinn's mistake in one of the most beautiful panels that Vinland Saga has many of. Einar tries talking, but to no avail. Thorfinn speaks for himself, taking complete responsibility of his actions, explain how he wants to make a peaceful place called Vinland, to save more lives than the one he has taken. She shoots, but her memories of her father stop her. She then joins Thorfinn's mission with the same purpose he had with Askeladd, avenging their father, awaiting for the right time. Hild's judgment of Thorfinn will decide his fate. We then skip to chapter 155 with Thorfinn fighting off Garm. It is an intense fight that we later discover that Hild was watching, expecting a mistake from Thorfinn. This fight is one of my favorite moments from Thorfinn. He tries to persuade Garm and explains how a true warrior does not need to take lives of others. Into chapter 156, we get to see another beautiful panel of Thorfinn using the same technique as Askeladd to stop Garm. He thinks to himself the things Askeladd taught him and wins the confrontation, leaving the fight as he says to Garm how he wishes to become friends, and Garm replying with, "We already are," which would be his last appearance in Vinland Saga. Thorfinn drops and talks to Hild, as she explains how she would have killed him if Thorfinn had murdered Garm in that battle. She replies, "You survived this one." This moment shows how she is unwilling to forgive. She is trying to find reasons to kill Thorfinn at any cost. We make yet another skip to the final stages of the manga, where Thorfinn positively hopes that Vinland becomes a place of peace. We get to see them get close and friendlier to each other, but never to an absurd content. The icing on the cake for me comes with chapter 188, another parallel with Thorfinn and a bear. Some villagers of this newfound Vinland complain about a bear sight, and Thorfinn explains how Hild is experienced and lets her do as she must. We get to see how the bear was hungry and looking for food. She thinks to herself how long it's been since she's hunted a bear, and how it's a shame that she has become too close to people. She thinks to herself how she never imagined teaching children. We then get to see her conversation with Carly. He questions her on why she's always fighting with Thorfinn. He drops a quote towards her, which is from Bug Eyes. Time heals all wounds. Let her be. In this very childlike manner of Carly, he asks if Thorfinn would apologize for his mistakes. Would she forgive him? And she replies with, I'm sure he has repented. This is the first time we get to see her openness to forgive Thorfinn. We then see a figure wearing a bear's face as clothes. He questions her on why she didn't kill the bear. She replies, because we are the ones in the wrong, explaining how they have taken the northern half of the bear's territory and how that resulted in him not being able to eat as a result. It only came to the river to get fish. She is mindful of the bear's hibernation and does not want to disturb it. The figure wearing a bear says to her how she hated bears and how someone very close to her got killed by a bear. I quote him, and yet you are able to understand this bear's feelings. Another parallel to Thorfinn. She replies that was a long time ago, letting the audience know that she has finally let go of the past. We get the conclusion of the story in chapter 191. We see Hild taking off her bandana and saying to herself how she cannot keep clinging on to this hatred. She quotes, I have borne witness to your atonement, Thorfinn. I forgive you. With an awe-inspiring panel. Thorfinn's reaction was the same as mine reading this moment. He cries in relief as Hild explained, he has done enough. He has went through the ends of the earth to release her from the cycle of vengeance. She states, you are a true warrior. This character symbolizes the message Vinland Saga tries to portray. We must focus on the future and not let our past burden us. We must forgive and understand. For me, this is one of the most beautiful and inspiring messages that a story has taught me.